Takes a second to kick in there. Sweet. All right, we are live.
Awesome.
So how's your day going, man?
Pretty good. Pretty busy, but excellent.
Yeah. What did you do today?
I went in to work with the LA Valiant, or not LA Valiant. I was working with the Clash Royale team for Immortals. So just did some work during the day, came back, worked on some content, had some meetings, and prepared for this.
Well, this is a show that you definitely should be preparing for. Hard-hitting questions. We even have some virtual hot wings we might have you eat. Just to
oh, no way.
Up a little
what
bit.
Flavor?
Whatever flavor you want, man. What's your wing flavor of choice?
I really like. I'm pretty basic. I really like the medium buffalo, but anything that has garlic, just gets me. Right, like
garlic parm.
Yeah, garlic. Exactly, garlic parm. That's it. Nice. That will get me.
Nice.
So hopefully it's garlic parm.
I'll see what I can do. Chat says that Jenkins looks a lot better than usual.
Oh, nice. Yep, he got a race change.
Yeah, it's just
he went to elves.
Sometimes. Give me 1 sec. I need to fix my mic for a second.
All right, for sure.
There we go. It's pointed in the wrong direction. Here we go. Is that a little bit better, friends?
Nice.
All right.
Do I even lift? Nah. Never lift. I just climb. Actually, I did lift today. So
nice. It's been about 5 or 6 days for me since I lifted because I threw my back out randomly.
Did you now?
Yeah, I don't know how it happened. I just woke up and my back was all messed up and I couldn't walk for 2 days. So I just sat and casted Dota. It was fun.
That's actually pretty common too.
Yeah.
That exactly that. Like going to lift, everything was fine. Next morning, can't get out of bed.
Yeah, it's the worst.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess let's just go ahead and hop into the episode. Welcome, everybody, to Alchemy Answers episode 48. This is going to be a special one. We are joined here by Matt. How do you pronounce your last name? Hwu?
Who, like who's there? Guess who? Who's your daddy? Whatever.
Okay. So Matt Hwu, and he is the performance and esports medicine specialist expert for the Immortals Esports Club team organization, as well as the LA Valiant and the Charge also. Is that correct? Nice.
Exactly.
So 2 Overwatch League teams, as well as a multi-gaming org. And Matt, why don't you tell me and chat a little bit about what you do for those teams? Like what makes you qualified to tell everybody how to live their life? Because you're not my dad.
I'm just a random Asian guy here in this little box on YouTube. So I'm a physical therapist. I'm also an orthopedic clinical specialist, strength and conditioning specialist. I try to get all these letters after my name so that I could have some value going into this team and then working with them. But basically what I do in the team environment is I handle everything as it relates to their health and their performance. So from injury prevention to performance, and I handle it pretty holistically, help them establish systems. I have some screenings, make sure they work out, and work with the coaches to establish a system that will not only just like develop the players, but also help them prevent any injuries and just stay more healthy, primarily because they're just gaming all the time.
Especially I want to stop you right there. How hard is it to get some of these gamers to work out, at least initially?
Yeah, so I think that's probably the best question, because I think that's the biggest challenge, right? And I have to leverage the right coaching staff and management to be able to work with them to at least build trust with the players, but also have the right amount of balance between, hey, like if you don't do this, there's some potential issues that you guys might run into. But my route is typically, hey, I just build trust. I have meetings with them, help them figure out exactly what they want to do in terms of fitness, health, injury prevention, nutrition management, mindset things. And I'm a huge gamer myself, right? Like I actually used to play a bunch of Dota, the OG Dota. I was Clan TDA.
Yeah,
then I went to Han, and then I never got into Dota 2. But I'm a huge gamer myself. I mean, in every single game that I like to play, I always try to get to like top 5% as much as possible. I think Overwatch, I got to like GM 4300 or something like that. I used to play a lot of CSGO, but that allows me to build a lot of rapport with them, really understand where they're coming from in terms of grinding, playing competitively, and then really from there work with them to find out what works best to move them along on what I call this developmental timeline. So everyone is a little different, right? There's some kids that are 24, some kids that are 16, and the way that I frame it is that if once they come into our organization, I have to find out where they are in terms of the stage of development. If I just tell a 24-year-old, hey, like it's important for you to work out, pay attention to your nutrition, maybe sleep more, he'll probably be like, yeah, I know, I've been living 24 years.
Right.
I've felt it in my body. But the 16-year-old that comes straight from high school has no concept of that at all. So
Right.
I can't treat both of those in the same way. Right. And I know I'm speaking a lot about this, but it's like it's a big part of how I approach everything, just with not only with my content, but like with teams and working with.
Yeah, I mean that's legit. We we have a very similar thing going on here, but obviously different topic. Getting the average pub Dota player to believe that it's their fault that they lose and not their teammates is like one of our biggest missions here on this channel, and it is unbelievably difficult for just like a random person to blame themselves and take responsibility. But obviously that's kind of what you're doing, is trying to get people to be like, hey man, your performance is under your own control and you can do other stuff to make it better than just grind games for 14 hours a day, right?
Exactly. And I think it's still really, really early. There's a lot of potential for really, really cool things like creating motor coordination training programs through Kovacs, AIM Lab, and even right like League of Legends has Mobalytics that has really novel and kind of crude sort of training systems for multitasking so that they can look at the mini map.
Right.
But really like this is truly the time to get into this part of the industry, because there's nothing, and
Right.
I'm really excited for all the things that we're working on, but also what other people come out with.
Yeah, man. I mean, I know from my own personal background as somebody who played sports all the way through college that it really is all about like taking care of your body to also take care of your brain, and then when your brain's taken care of, your performance is obviously going to spike in the positive. And so it's really just like this full connected system. And I remember that was one of the things that drew me to esports initially, is that there's just like so many things that you can bring over from traditional sports that have been doing it for like 150 200 years, even developing these systems of training and making yourself a better competitor, that there just isn't in esports. Like there are a few esports people and gamers that come from a sports background because it's like a new way to compete, but so many gamers are just like, you're not brought up necessarily in a coaching system. You're just like in your bedroom and suddenly you're the best gamer in the world in a certain thing. And it's like this weird path to getting there, to making it, that doesn't involve any sort of other like support system.
So that's interesting that you say that, because the thing that I always say when I'm explaining to a lot of people that come from a traditional sports background and want to implement a lot of things that are within traditional sports is, hey, like these guys are different. Think about it. They're coming straight from 16, 17, 18, and they have to experience what it's like to be a high school, college, and professional athlete all crunched into 1 year. It's impossible to do that, right? And but yet they're forced to do that. So the level of development that they have to go through is not even close to what traditional athletes have to, because they have the structure from the moment they're in grade school. They have little league, and they have intramurals. They have all these structures within high school and college that allow them to understand how to handle everything that's associated with coaching and the structure of a team. So yeah, I mean, 100%. That's something I always speak to when it comes to working with esports athletes or gamers.
Nice. All right. Well, do you want to get into some questions from our Patreon supporters? And we'll
totally
chat as well. But we had some pretty good responses. A lot of stuff about like posture and that kind of stuff. And I know that that's
Yeah,
something
yeah,
you
yeah.
really specialize in. I guess one more question before we hop into this is, do you have any sort of like really concrete stories of you maybe fixing somebody's either like pregame warm up or workout routine or sleeping schedule or something like that, and having them like all of a sudden come to you a month later and be like, dude, you changed like my ability to win these games or something like that?
Yeah, all the time, and actually through different channels or mediums. But the one of the ones that I think of almost immediately is a Smash Ultimate player, or I guess back then it was Smash 4. But I used to work with CLG, and I worked with this guy called Void, or Tice. Or yeah, I worked with Void, and basically he had really crappy posture, didn't really exercise, didn't really take care of himself when he went to tournaments, and we changed all of that. And he immediately in like 2 weeks came back, was like, dude, I don't know why I wasn't doing this before. When I sit up and I have better posture, I feel like I have more energy, and I use that as a cue in game. When he slouches over, he reminds himself to sit more upright, and that allows him to play better. That was probably one of the more notable ones that I remember. But I mean, all the time. One of the
Nice.
things that I do with all the teams is make sure that they work out to a high intensity interval routine prior to their match day. And
Okay.
all coaches, all players have all responded super positively to that system, and saying they have more energy, they focus better, they calm better. So, yeah,
Nice. Cool. Right on.
it's been
That's
fun. It's been fun.
that's dope. I can't wait to see what science and like just as the field develops, it's gonna be so interesting. All
Yeah.
right. So
So we
question
can get
number
to it.
yeah,
Yeah.
cool. Question number one is from Rommel, and they ask, how important is it to play with both feet flat on the floor? I tend to cross my legs or play with my feet under my chair. Um, I guess probably the subcontext for this would be just like for postural comfort slash how long can you sustain that before you have problems?
Yeah, I think what we should first talk about is, let's just make it known that any position for a long period of time can be harmful. But even if you sit with the perfect posture 24 hours in a row, it's not going to be good for you. So I guess like the first response is like, how long are you actually playing this position? If you're moving a lot in between those positions pretty frequently when you're playing, then it's actually okay, right? You're not, the tissues aren't going to be placed in too much strain. But if we zoom out and just look at these positions objectively, I always recommend the feet being flat on the floor, mainly because there's just overall less strain on your tissue if you play with your feet supported,
All
and
right, I'm gonna put my feet
and,
on the floor.
and modify your ergonomic environment to really allow that to happen. So um, it's sort of that most neutral position that doesn't allow for shortening of certain muscles that can prevent your muscles from working well. So what we call muscle inhibition at your legs and even your lower back. So a lot of the times when we're sitting, our muscles don't work as well. So when we get up and do other things, our lower back or the joints of our lower back get irritated more quickly. If we dive into the cross-legged position, if you guys kind of just imagine it, um, this can cause shortening of your butt muscles, cause strain on the outside of your knee. I'm sure you guys can kind of see why physically if you're crossing your knees, and sometimes when you just bend your knee too much, it can limit the blood flow going uh, both ways. It's the same story with if your knees bent too far underneath your chair. That typically places more pressure underneath your thighs. So let me just demonstrate for you guys.
We're gonna switch over to the
I'm
other
gonna,
screen.
yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna share this. This is a quick drawing. Boom! Look at this guy. You guys see him? I hope you guys see
I think it's working.
him. All right.
Yeah, there we
Look at
go.
this guy. He looks really, really erect. Obvious, and he's not wearing clothes. This is not how I want you guys to play, obviously. But what I'm trying to demonstrate is obviously this thing, right? He's flat, feet are supported, nice, right? And then I want you guys to envision, right? If his knees are bent like this, there'll be more pressure here.
Okay.
So that can sometimes limit blood flow. That also shortens these muscles here, your hamstrings, which again, when you go and do other activities, it can place more strain on your lower back.
Yeah,
So
dude.
this guy, right? So hold on, we'll make him happier.
Yeah. It kind of looks
Wow,
like the Joker,
that's
actually.
really
It's pretty...
creepy, really creepy. My bad. Okay. So I'm back.
Okay, so if we want to be a supervillain, then the answer is to sit with good posture, basically.
Right. Dude, that is creepy. That is creepy.
So that's kind of interesting because ever since I started working on like Dota stuff full time and doing marketing work where I have to sit at a desk all the time, I just noticed that my legs hurt almost all the time. Like there's just like this kind of like discomfort because my hamstrings are so short all the time. Like I can feel them. They're just like rock hard, tight all the time. And it hurts my lower back and it makes me like not want to work out because I feel like shit.
Yeah, for sure. You know, and like that's why it's super important when we work out to have a nice warm up.
Yeah.
Because we have to undo all the stress of what we're doing throughout the day, which is literally just sitting, and then we go out and do this workout. A lot of us skip that step, right? We just don't realize it.
Right.
Just hop right in. Let me do my 20 squats or whatever. Let me do my strong lifts. But you'll hurt your back if you don't. Warm up properly, activate your glutes, all those things.
Sounds good. All right, the next question is from Edge Dancer, and shout out to the what's that series? Way of Kings. It's a good series, fantasy series. If you like fantasy books. They ask, does resting your forearms on the edge of the table hurt you? Basically asking whether arm rests or wrist rests are good to have. I assume the wrist rest would be like on the mouse pads that some people have.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good question. I think typically if the arms are at the edge of the table, what I've seen is that the elbow is lower than the wrist. So the bulk of the muscles or of the forearm are in contact with the edge. I think that's what he's asking. In that position, your mouse, the muscles have to work harder at your forearm due to the angle of your forearm. So it lengthens the top of the muscles right here, and it shortens the bottom muscles here. And in terms of muscle physiology, there's an optimal length at which muscles tend to work. And if you guys think about it in terms of a bicep curl, when you are at slightly over 90 degrees, that's when you're the strongest. It's called the length tension relationship. But at the cellular level, it just means these proteins are aligned pretty well. But that creates the best tension. So it'll fatigue more easily if you're in that position. It doesn't necessarily hurt you to do that, but it can lead to higher risk of injury. And I think typically with that, it's like you might not have better ergonomics. So my recommendation is, yeah, use an armrest or sit close enough to your table so that your forearm is parallel with the ground and it's just resting on the table.
Kind of like reminds me of those videos of like the old Korean StarCraft pros who would like measure everything and like make sure that their armrests on their chairs were like perfectly in line with their desk and stuff like that. So you're saying that's good stuff, right?
Yep. Bring your ruler out. Pop that ruler out.
Sweet. So in that regard, what kind of chairs do you recommend? Obviously, you have like a gaming chair.
You know what? Like I get this question all the time, and I don't really have one straight recommendation. I think the Herman Miller chairs are great. I really think the main thing is it's all about customization and how you're able to customize it to fit the setup of your table. Right? You can't just only consider your chair. You have to make sure your armrest can fit under it. Can you raise it high enough so that your armrest can don't come in contact with the table or put your forearms on the table. There's so many things that you can consider. So I think one of maybe the stepwise process is, okay, understand the dimensions of your table, understand the width of your table, then look into the dimensions of the chair and see if that allows you to clear the table. If you like to play closer and you want your forearms to be resting on the table, if not, most tables have, or most chairs now have armrests. You can keep it parallel to the ground. In terms of the actual comfort and how much cushion, I prefer a little more firm because it doesn't mean your muscles have to work a little harder as you're sitting and you're sinking in, and you have to be more active to hold yourself up. I think firm is a little better. It's nice to have a lumbar support, but it's not necessary. Same thing with the neck pillow. It's all about how you sit in the chair, and whether or not you can customize it to sit in what would be the neutral positions. And I have like this long guide, and maybe I can like post it in the chat.
Yeah, go for it. You can also link it in the description if you want.
Yeah, there it is, guys. Anyways, yeah, I mean, I can't say, oh, this is the best chair, because every chair is different for everyone's size.
Sure.
So whenever someone says this is the best gaming chair, they're not telling you the truth. It's the best gaming chair for one person.
Sure, exactly. Yeah, that makes sense.
I like that question. Do we have to bring a tape measure when we go to a net cafe?
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely.
Yes. Bring it. Bring a protractor too, you know?
That'll definitely not get you beat up.
Then you have a weapon.
Exactly. Ninja Star.
Exactly.
Okay, so Dark Phoenix asks, should I avoid tucking a foot under myself, aka half yoga position? I sit like this also a lot of the time.
Yeah, I think a lot of people select this too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he has a second part of his question too, right? Like,
oh yeah. So two different ones, so you can answer that one first if you want. But he also asks. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I'll answer that one. So Dark Phoenix, pretty much the same answer to the Rommel question, right? If you're not holding it too long,
right,
should be fine. Objectively, it's better to play with your feet flat and supported. If you're not tall enough, you get a footrest to bring the floor up to you, right? Mm-hmm. Same thing if you're turning your knee out and sitting on your foot, the outer knee tissues can be irritated, and it can also irritate the knee joint itself. So when I was working in an orthopedic clinic back then, all these 50, 60-year-old ladies, I mean, you guys obviously aren't 50 and 60. There's no Dota silver sneakers yet, but well, maybe there is actually, who knows. But they came to me saying, hey, I still like this a lot, and then they have joint irritation, and once we change that position or change that habit of theirs, they felt better. So because we're young, we're resilient, it's not going to hurt us as much, but just a thing to keep in mind. Why not avoid that in the first place and just feet flat on the ground?
Sure. Cool. Yeah, so the second question from Dark Phoenix was, I tend to have slight discomfort under the knuckle base of his index finger during a slight claw grip on his mouse, which I think Logitech G502 or something like that. Should I do stretch exercises for that, and what would be a good hand stretch? I know you have a hand stretching program. I've seen it before, so I'm going to assume yes. But
yeah, so I think with regards to the slight discomfort under the base of the finger, I think it depends on whether or not it's on the palm side or the opposite side of the hand, right? Because that means it's a different tissue involvement. I am assuming because it's claw, it's probably on the opposite side of the hand,
right?
Over here. So it's probably over here. So that's a tendon irritation issue. Stretches are really temporary in terms of relief. So if you guys do have discomfort here, discomfort in your fingers here, discomfort along the backside here, it's all the same stretch, and you can isolate the fingers that you guys feel it in, or the respective knuckle, by just grabbing the two fingers, pulling it back. I don't know if you guys can kind of see this, but like that.
That'll hurt if you're tight in there. That'll definitely hurt.
Yeah, and you want to hold it 20 to 30 seconds. You're not trying to stretch it to the point where it really does hurt. Moderate discomfort's fine. But really, if you want long-term relief and be able to play in the claw position, have the G502 and not worry, you want to also build up your endurance. So the thing I always recommend is this general program or general video that I've created that works to just build up endurance for your wrist and hand muscles. But specific to the index finger, something that obviously super easy you can do is a lot of people get that grip strengthening kit that has like a rubber band that's attached to the finger, and you just provide some resistance.
Actual single finger.
Yeah. I mean, you can provide some resistance, but why not work on all of them at once?
Sure.
You know, you can just work on all extensors, endurance sort of repetitions, 3 sets of 20, 3 sets of 15, morning and nighttime. And then it takes roughly 4 to 6 weeks to make a change in strength. So that's when you can really expect for there to be noticeable changes. Maybe in 2 weeks if it's a coordination issue, but 6 weeks is roughly the time if you're really consistent with doing these exercises that you'll probably not feel any discomfort at all after doing it consistently. So
Cool.
yeah.
That's awesome. All right. Next question is, let's see. We've gotten plenty of questions about the foot and leg position, so I think I'm going to skip that one. Here's a good one. And actually, we put out a question on, or we put out that you were going to be on Instagram as well. And there's a bunch of questions about like eyesight and stuff like that. So
Okay.
maybe I can bring some of those in addition to this one by Lock Cap.
Sure. I'll do my best.
What is an optimal monitor position in relation to your eyes? Should I force my eyes to look up and encourage better posture?
Okay, so this is a super, super good question because there's this really common misconception that looking up will help you have better posture. And I recently had this same question with actually a pro Overwatch player, and he'd been dealing with some upper neck pain right under the base of his neck. So his upper cervical joints. And that he'd also been causing or experiencing some headaches. And one of the contributing factors was that his monitor was too high because he felt like that would encourage better posture. But on the flip side, it actually causes what we call cervicogenic headaches. It can irritate the joints at the top, right below the base of your skull, or the suboccipital muscle group, this triangle of muscles that are literally below the base of your head. And we can actually go into that drawing again.
Yeah, switch it
I'll show you guys. Show you guys this drawing. Hold up. Boom. Okay. Okay, we'll do this. Okay, so when you guys
still on your face, by the way.
Oh, we are. Okay. Hold on. Boom. There we go. So when we're sitting with crappy posture, the muscles that we irritate are right over here. Okay, and there's also joints over here that get irritated. That causes some headaches that radiate over the top of our head. Anyways,
for the podcast people, we're talking about right, like the base of your skull in the back.
Right here.
Yep.
And let's actually get into why it should be lower, right? So the actual, let me see if oh yeah, there, boom. My typical recommendation is that when you're sitting upright on your computer, you should be, your eyes, or the level of your eyes should be at the top 1/4 of the monitor. Okay, and the reason is because the optimal level for what we call convergence of the eyes is roughly between like 15 to 40 degrees. So you want that downward tilt of the eyes to look in the center of the screen so that your eyes don't fatigue as easily. Your eyes don't have to work as hard, and that's based on the internal anatomy and lens of the eye, allowing for the least amount of strain. So yeah, basically allow your eyes to be at the top 1/4 of the monitor, allow sort of this type of angle to the center of your screen. So this is where the center of your screen should be, right? And I mean, if you guys reflect it, it'll probably be roughly the same here. So on the opposite end, if you're looking up, right, what happens is people don't typically just use their eyes, they use their neck to look up, and that's what causes more compression here in this area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Hopefully that made sense.
Yeah, definitely. These diagrams are clutch.
Yep.
This is good stuff.
Stick figure diagrams.
Well prepared. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, somebody wrote that they should probably try not to play with your monitor upside down either. That's probably pretty good advice.
I do want to get to Shiver's question a little bit, right? Because the answer that I had was a little different than everyone else. Because
sure.
We can just refer to the same answer. Yeah, get your feet flat on the ground. But I think he had a really good question about how to break the habit or coping with it.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important for us to touch on, right? It's a habit we have to work out of. And the research actually right now is not definitive on how long it takes to break a habit. And I know there's a lot of gurus out there that say, 21 days, or it takes however many hours or whatever like that. Everyone is different. So there's so many confounding factors that we have to consider to be able to say, all right, this is exactly how long it takes for you to break a habit. All you need to know is the harder you work on creating rules for yourself and creating the environment for yourself to change the habit, the faster it will be. So the difference between 1 week versus the difference between 6 weeks.
Sure. It's like the
So
perfect practice is better than just like regular practice, right?
exactly. So I think the practical things that you can do, not only for the sitting habit that he has, sitting on his one leg or slouching, is I always recommend this to the pros that I work with or any gamer. Every time the results screen happens or pops up, check your sitting posture or check your upper body posture. For lower body, that means feet supported, knees hip width, thighs parallel to the ground. For the upper body, that just means bring your chest up, shoulders tilted slightly back, and then tuck your chin a little bit. And right, the goal isn't to be super erect, head tilted all the way back, but as you begin to practice that over and over, your posture will change from slouching to more upright. And you can see that with a lot of people that I worked with. They start in this really hunched position, and as they're more conscious about it throughout the day, another rule I like to have them set is every time you walk through the door, bring your chest up. So yeah, I think that's a good thing. But also, you can do exercises, right? You want to be able to use the muscles and have the endurance to sit in that position for longer periods of time. And those are things like tucking your chin, doing wall posture. This is like one exercise I always post. I actually should do a more in-depth like walkthrough for posture. So that'll probably be one of my next projects. Since I always have to talk about it, but I never have this holistic or thorough video that I can recommend. So yeah.
Cool. I feel like I had a question. Whatever. We'll move on to the next one. Oh, here's one that I think is really interesting. What's the optimal ergonomic spacing between keyboard and mouse? Because there's been some people in Dota that play like almost like this, and then obviously there's some people that play with like one arm cocked like this to like hit the side keys and like Counter-Strike and stuff like that. And like the mouse arm
This is a good question. This is a very good question. So I think it depends. I mean, I think every answer in health depends, right? Because everyone's different. But the main considerations that we should have are, okay, I have a split keyboard, so the space in between is a little different, right? Everyone's keyboard is a little different. If they have a 10 key versus 10 keyless, that will affect the difference, right? Or that will affect the positioning of the keyboard. In general, we don't want our shoulder to be in too much internal rotation because that affects how we do overhead activities later on, can cause more irritation of the muscles in our shoulder. So, right, while the vertical keyboard's fine, and there really isn't any issue with the wrist for the vertical keyboard. My main issue is that it causes too much internal rotation of the shoulder when you're there like, in the longer, when you're there in longer periods of time. So, again, it's okay to have it if it helps with your performance, because for some people, it actually reduces for your keybinds the distance that you have to move to like an F1 to like one of your macro buttons.
Sure.
Right. That's, of course, I don't want you to trade off performance with something that, you can easily do a stretch after you're done playing the game to undo some of the stress. So it all depends. If you're willing to do some stretches afterwards, then it's fine. You can have the vertical keyboard position and you can play with your keyboard a little closer to your mouse. On the flip side, right, if they're a little further apart, it just causes your shoulders to be in more external rotation. And in the same way, right, it shortens muscles somewhere else, or shortens muscles at a certain location. It lengthens muscles in another location, which creates some imbalance, and that can cause higher risk of injury when you're doing other activities. Okay. Again, all can be undone after you're done playing with the right stretches.
And just diligent consistency with that.
Exactly.
So here's a question for you. I know that like the standard gamer posture is always kind of like, it's like shoulders forward, chest kind of like concave, almost like head forward a little bit. Could you actually sort of correct that a little bit by, let's say, putting your keyboard and mouse farther apart so you have to kind of like thoracically extend or like put your chest out to reach them? Does that make sense?
That's a good point. I think so, actually. I think when you are in an external rotated position, naturally you have to be in a more thoracic extension. So I think that's a good point. But what typically happens is there's some compensations at the wrist. There's not as much wrist movement towards your pinky if you're externally rotated. If you guys can just kind of try that or visualize that now, right? I can't even bring my camera there, but anyways, yeah, if you're externally rotated, your wrist sometimes isn't able to move as far towards your pinky. But I think that's a good point. I think in general, it's just better to leverage your understanding of having better posture. But not only that, just taking the time to work on that and be conscious of that as you guys are gaming.
Cool. All right. Here's a more Dota related question, and since you played some Dota,
Let's do it.
as a support player, I often find my carry has no spine. How do I deal with that? No, I'm just
So you grab him. Just kidding. Okay. Okay.
No, okay. But a real question is, do you have any recommendations for taking care of your eyesight while playing more than 3 hours of Dota a day? And do you recommend those like blue light glasses, or are there any good glasses, or do glasses affect your eyesight negatively or positively for that kind of stuff?
So yeah, another really thoughtful question. I like it. I think blue light 100% can affect eye fatigue, but for 3 hours, I wouldn't worry about it too much. I think your diet has a really big impact on it. There's actually this product that is coming out, or I've seen it a lot. It's called Eye Promise, and it's originally in traditional sports, and they're getting in esports right now. But with what they have, all the ingredients within their product, I think it actually has some potential to benefit for extended periods of time of playing. It just creates better environment for the eyes to function. But besides that, I think the basics are always what I would refer back to, right? You can take supplements, you can do all these other things, but you always have to get back to the basics with general care for your eyes. So taking breaks, and one thing that even my mom knew this. My Asian mom would come in and be like, "Hi, Matt, look at far distances, look in the green," and she'll always tell me that, and I didn't really believe her. But looking at for like different distances for your eyes help relax certain muscles of your eye, and can really provide some a much needed break for your eyes that's just focusing on a lot of different cues that are in front of you when you're playing Dota. Um, Aside from that, even closing your eyes for a little bit during one of your breaks after you go and grab some water can go a long way to rehydrate it. Eye drops can be helpful, but a good diet, regular exercise, sleeping well are obviously the foundations for making sure that your eyesight is set when you guys are playing for long periods of time in Dota. There's definitely more to explore here
Cool.
that I'm not that familiar with too, but I want to get more into understanding that.
Yeah, one thing I can say is from my own personal experience that my eyesight is definitely much worse at like the end of the day if I've just been sitting looking at a computer screen all the time. And so sometimes what I'll do if I've like done like a 6 hour or 7 hour session of like editing a video or gaming or whatever, is I'll go outside if it's sunny, and then I'll just like lie outside in the sun, kind of, which is like the sun on my face and eyes closed for like 10 minutes. And I'll notice that like by the end of that, I'll be able to like see individual leaves on trees that I normally can't see without glasses normally.
Yep, that's a really good one. I mean, just taking a walk.
Yeah.
No joke, a walk is so therapeutic. Getting fresh air, it's undervalued in gaming.
Totally. Cool. All right. Are you good for like maybe 2 more questions and then the speed round from chat? All right. Awesome. So these 2 are about sedentary lifestyle, which obviously this extends beyond gaming, beyond Dota, beyond whatever game you like to play. This is like human issues 101 right now, I feel like, in our society. Mm-hmm. Are there any eating habits that you should follow in order to avoid health problems due to sedentary lifestyle? And can you recommend anything besides exercise and taking breaks for dealing with that?
Wait, are there Repeat the question. Are there any eating habits? What?
Are there any eating habits that you can follow in order to avoid health problems due to sedentary lifestyle?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That's a good question. I'm not sure I can provide too much of a holistic response, but I think in general, what I've found has been pretty helpful as a habit is fasting, specifically intermittent fasting. I know that there's on the spectrum of health for a lot of gamers, there's the really skinny and then the overweight, right? And obviously depends on where you fall on that spectrum of which one will be beneficial for you. Um, right? I think it's pretty straightforward in that you shouldn't be ordering food late at night, but with the gaming lifestyle, it makes it easy for us to do that, right? And one of the things that I like to recommend the most to people is just planning ahead. That can go such a long way into preventing you caving into, you know, your dopamine urges and ordering, 50 chicken nuggets at McDonald's through Uber Eats, which I did before in New York, and I didn't feel good. I felt terrible. So that was a while ago. I'm just kidding. It was like a week ago. Just kidding. It was a while ago. But planning and preparation, that allows you to identify. Okay, well, I know that I'm going to be eating at this time, and I don't have to worry about what I'm going to order. I know I'm going to be playing for this time. I'm taking this amount of breaks, right? And that can seem so daunting to a gamer in the beginning, but start small. Start with micro commitment. All right, I'm just going to plan for one break. Did I succeed? If
Sure.
I did, great. Next time I'll do two. Next time I'll plan one good snack. I'll ask my mom to buy a banana, right? And like that South Park
just
episode.
one banana.
Yeah, like that South Park episode where he just goes, "Mom," and gets some shit passed. But instead, get a banana, or get some
Sure.
good snacks, some almonds, some healthy snacks, like celery and peanut butter, whatever. Um, and I think for those, I mean, and if you just being brutally honest, if you guys are overweight, try intermittent fasting. Having two meals, you will feel great. Have coffee in the morning, have your first meal with a little bit more carbs, and taper your carbs into your second meal. You will feel great. You'll lose weight. You don't have to track all your calories and shit like that. It's a good start to start building better habits for nutrition.
Nice. That's really good advice. I noticed that, and it's hard to say that there isn't any correlation. I haven't like expressly tried to prove this, but I was pretty hard stuck at like a slightly above average rank for a long time. And ever since I made an extra focus to, instead of like, I used to just binge queue all the time. So I'd like queue for a game, it would end, I'd just play another one, play another one, play another one, just like that. There'd be like,
Mm-hmm.
maybe I'd get up to like go take a piss or something like that. But that was basically it. It would just be like 5, 6 games in a row. And now what I've been doing is I'll get up between any game, like every single game I play, I'll get up, I'll go like either get a glass of water, I'll go eat like a couple carrots or something like that even, and I'll notice like I'll be like, holy shit, I've been hungry for like 5 hours and I've just been ignoring it because I'm just like so locked into my game, or I'm like
Mm-hmm.
super thirsty, stuff like that. And surprise, surprise, I'm like top, I don't know, 2% now. I'm steadily,
Hell yeah,
steadily climbing rank, and it's like
legit.
I feel like a lot of it is just because of these tiny micro breaks in my gaming sessions. Like
Yeah, for
huge
sure.
piece to reset.
I think another important thing to consider with that is, right, like that's the mode that everyone always has. I'm just gonna keep playing. But the biggest thing that we have to get used to is there's a lot of value in learning things outside of the game, which is why you guys are here, right? Which is why you
Right.
guys subscribe to Dota Alchemy or their Patreon to learn more, right? And being okay with not playing the game and understanding that the game is a way to, one, maintain your mechanics, but also apply what you're learning through VOD reviews, through working with the coach or working with whoever to better understand your weakness or certain parts of the game that you want to improve on. Um, there's so many ways to approach improvement that are just better than just grinding aimlessly. So Um, I mean, I can't stress that enough.
That's awesome, man. Okay, let's just take a few questions from the YouTube chat. I saw a couple good ones earlier, and then I'll let you go. I definitely appreciate your time. Don't want to keep you for too long.
Yeah, no worries.
All right, here's a good one. What this is a good basic one for everybody, I think. Do you have any sort of like basic workout regimen that you would recommend for somebody, maybe somebody who's just like who wants to work out but doesn't do it regularly, or maybe is getting into it for the first time and they spend a lot of time sitting and maybe working at a desk, being in school, gaming a lot? How would you start to like build them into fitness and introduce them to how good you can feel when you exercise?
Yeah. So it again, there's the it depends part in the fact that everyone's own goals for fitness are a little different. So if someone came to me and wanted to build strength or build gain size, whereas the other person wanted to lose weight, there's different approaches. But for someone that just kind of, regardless for both of them, what I need them to do is demonstrate that they're able to perform a lot of the basic movements well. So, I typically recommend when I transition players into a gym program, a push pull. If they're at a gym, I do a push pull. You can do a push pull even outside of the gym at home. But
So it's like
for
push-ups
most
and
of
rows or pull-ups or something
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah. For most of you guys that don't know, push pull with at the gym is like bench press, shoulder press, squats is push day with tricep press down, and maybe add a core exercise in there, cable external rotations, wrist extensions. That's more esports specific, right? Because cable external rotations will help you with your rotator cuff if you flick a lot at the mouse. Wrist extensions help with obviously wrist fatigue. You can add finger exercises if you wanted to. Pull is like deadlift, rows, lat pull downs, pull ups, horizontal row, um, anything high pull, and those are all the things you can do at the gym. At home, I always ask that at least they have some equipment, whether it be therabands or even a dumbbell set, and with that they can do enough. And I love recommending interval training, which is or just like high intensity interval training on the treadmill, because that has so much of a benefit to our executive function, which is everything that we utilize in Dota, right? Our working memory, our inhibition control, our focus, our reaction time, all of that, all of those decision making uh, functions of our cognitive abilities are improved when you do a high intensity interval on the treadmill, on the bike, on the stairmaster, on through rowing. So if you guys go out in the morning, hit a run where you run 1 minute, rest 2 minutes, run 1 minute, rest 2 minutes, repeat that 4 to 5 times. See how you feel. I mean, compare that with a walk or maybe a low level stretch. It's a big difference, right? In terms of the hormones that are released and the testosterone that's released. So try that, right? So just I guess quick review for those that have access to the gym, push pull. For those that don't have access to the gym, get therabands, get some light dumbbells, and you can probably perform a lot of the same movements, right? A goblet squat, shoulder press with a theraband, push-ups, a pull like a seated row or row with a theraband, a deadlift with a dumbbell. There's all these things you can do just at home, and then like get like a pull-up bar, and then if you guys want to have something additive on days where you guys maybe are playing a match, if you guys play competitively, then do a morning workout with your team or do a 15-minute workout with your team where you guys do intervals, 1 minute on, 2 minutes off, repeat that for 6 to 7 intervals or 5 intervals, whatever you guys want to do, and see how you feel.
Yeah, I think that last point that you raised is actually really interesting. I know that some people, myself included, are very kind of like to work out solo. I don't know. For some reason, I just would prefer to work out solo, but I know that the vast majority of people really benefit from having a partner or a group that they exercise with, and that can be just motivation enough to get you to continue going. So find out what your motivation is and find out what like gets you to the start of the exercise, because usually once you're in, it's pretty easy to keep going, but just getting there is like more than half the battle a lot of the time.
Yeah, I mean, half Kawhi and Nutella both bring up a pretty good point, right? You guys need to transition obviously into the right volume. You're not going to jump in and just hit 50 intervals or 4 sets, 10-8-6, a pyramid scheme of your sets for the big lifts. You're going to start with 2 sets, right? Make sure you have the motor coordination, make sure you have your form correct. And it doesn't matter. Like, don't chase the sweat, don't chase the soreness. In the beginning, it's just about doing the exercise correctly, and then you still get the benefits from it.
Totally.
Pre-workout drink too, yes. Oh yes.
All right, so the last question that I wanted to ask is a little bit of a different angle, and that is I want to talk about your brain a little bit, the mental side of stuff. There was a question earlier about what the good mental state is for playing Dota, and then somebody else asked about meditation and mindfulness, and I wanted to get your opinion on that kind of stuff, like either relaxing in between games, how to prepare yourself on the mental side of things, and what do you recommend to players that are in high stress situations like the pro gamers that you work with?
So I probably am gonna have a pretty controversial opinion on this, but I think while meditation is helpful, most of the time it's relating to how we think and our perspective about things that influence how stressed we get in the game. So while it's really popular right now for a lot of sports psychologists and things to recommend these initiatives, like, oh, go and take a walk, or let's have this team activity where we talk about this, it doesn't address the underlying issue, which is how do you perceive this specific stressor within the game, and why is it getting you stressed? What are the thought patterns? And I was really fortunate in I was in orthopedic residency, one of the best in the nation. It was Kaiser, and we learned a lot about chronic pain and how to use cognitive behavioral therapy to address um, chronic pain. And a lot of it came down to addressing what we call thought viruses, or how they approach or see certain situations. And I think the biggest thing that we can realize is what you think influences everything that you do. Your thoughts and your emotions and your behaviors are all related. But what you can actually influence are your thoughts, one, and then two, your behaviors. So those are the things I would work on, right? Having better self-awareness of your thoughts, identifying the triggers that are getting you stressed, um, and then utilizing these supplemental tools like running, meditation, deep breathing, 4x4 breathing, box breathing, diaphragm, whatever, to change your state to allow you to reach a calm or more neutral state before you start playing. But if you don't understand why you're stressed and you just calm yourself down, okay, great. The next time that situation arises again, you're going to be stressed again. So I think it's even valuable to explore working with a sports psychologist, right? Working with
Sure.
just a regular clinical psychologist to dig into your own thoughts. Why not, right? That's such a taboo, or that has such negative connotations. Oh, I'm working with a therapist. Well, fuck yeah, like I know my thoughts. I have a better grasp of how I think. So I'm happy to work with a therapist. Um, so I think we need to flip the perspective and flip how we approach thinking about understanding our thoughts better.
I mean, look at Astralis. They were like the first CS:GO team to integrate a sports psychologist, and they're the best CS:GO team in the world. And that same sports psychologist worked with OG, and they're the only team that's ever repeated it as TI champions. Like,
Yeah.
there's something to that. There's something to, I mean, self-awareness being the most important, I think.
Right.
Like,
Right.
because otherwise you're basically just like a blind man trying to figure out how to, I don't know, paint or draw or something like that.
Yeah.
You don't have any frame of reference to what is like a balanced state of mind if you're just like constantly high low high low high low. And I think that's why a lot of people in Dota are so affected by the wins and losses. Like the investment into a game is like, 35 to 40 minutes, and that can be pretty significant chunk of your day. And so it's pretty natural to be really attached to the wins and losses. But at the same time, if you are going from a super low low to a super high high, and you don't have any sort of in the middle, you're going to have a really hard time being consistent in anything that you do. So I completely agree.
Yeah. And I think a big part of it is it's not easy, right?
Yeah.
It's
And that's
fucking
okay.
work.
Yeah.
It's super hard work to change how you approach certain situations. So exactly, this Jamie McCallum, how you train your body, you have to train your mind.
Yep.
And it's no joke. You have to work really, really hard. Every time I think about this, every time I encounter this situation, what is my first thought and how can I change that? Right? You're reprogramming your subconscious or reprogramming your initial reaction for a lot of things. So it's a pretty big field to dive into. But I love it. I love learning more about it. Hopefully that was helpful for
No,
people.
totally. That's good stuff. All right, man. I appreciate you tuning in, and I appreciate what you're doing for esports. I know I've talked to you about it before, but I think it's really dope that there is a professional in the field actually trying to make a difference in this regard. So thank you for joining us here. Thanks to chat and thanks to Patreon for providing the questions and support.
That's
right. You want to tell everybody where to find you so that they can follow up, maybe even learn some real exercises instead of just from stick diagrams?
Yeah. I mean, I have my own Patreon. It's just Patreon /1HP. And then my YouTube and my Twitter. My Twitter is HP for Gamers. My YouTube is also HP for Gamers, maybe. I mean, I think it was like my private channel that I changed, but it's One Health Providence now that I look it up. But you can just look up 1HP or look up some of my guides. You can look up my name, Matt Hwu, on YouTube, and you'll see some stuff. You'll probably find some dancing videos because I used to teach hip hop dance. But
Cool.
I'll link some stuff in the chat right now for you guys. Yeah, exactly. Mr. Who, that was one of my. These are like my two like really iconic YouTube videos. Yeah, feel free to ask me, shoot me some questions, follow me on Twitter, whatever you guys want. And thank you guys for tuning in, asking really thoughtful questions. I really like the Dota community. I always take a little bit of pride being like, oh yeah, I played the OG Dota, because I just feel like, no cap, we're just more intellectual.
More hardcore, more dedicated, for sure, dude. That's what it is.
I mean,
that's what it is.
Am I wrong?
No,
but
not at all.
Hopefully none of my Overwatch, League of Legends, CS:GO, Fortnite followers are watching this.
Dota
Sorry.
#1.
No cap, Dota. Dota's the best.
All right, man. See you later, everybody.